Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at some cards that I've seen price spikes lately and see if we can figure out what's going on and why it's happening. Some of these have gone up very sharply, some of them a little bit less so, but they have all gone up in the past couple of months, and it's stuff we need to talk about. Starting with what I'm going to phrase as the one that took way too long, Umbreon VMAX, but the Trainer Gallery one from Brilliant Stars. Now, obviously, at this point, we know that the Umbreon V-Star from, the alternate art from Evolving Skies, that's the Umbreon card, right? That's the big one. That is the biggest card in the Sword and Shield era. In that entire block, this is the big card. So everybody knows that. And we got to the point now where you ain't finding it for $500. So it's always been a little bit weird to me that card is so big and the Trainer Gallery one from Brilliant Stars is so small. And don't get me wrong, there are reasons. Firstly, the artwork on the Umbreon is clearly at this point iconic, and that helps to explain part of the difference. Secondly, it was the one that came out first, so it kind of got the hype earlier than the other one could. Thirdly, there is an element of the Trainer Gallery cards being a little bit easier to pull than the Umbreon, so the Umbreon is a little bit rarer. Yeah, there are definitely reasons why the Umbreon is more expensive than the Trainer Gallery one from Brilliant Stars. And I'm not saying there isn't. What I am saying is, this card languishing down at like $20 for so long was absurd. Yeah, those days seem to be past. Now this Umbreon is starting to attract value as well. And again, we're nowhere near the Umbreon here. But over the past kind of 3 months, it's gone up by 84% according to TCG Player. What used to be, you could pick this up for $20 back in mid-March. It's now, I'm going to tentatively call it a $45 card. TCG Player got it listed at $44 as the market price. We have seen one sold for $41, but we've also seen one sold for $55. But it's somewhere in that range. It is not a cheap card anymore. And I don't expect this to change. Expect this to essentially be the beginning. Now, I could be wrong. As always, all I can ever do is give you my best interpretation of the data, use what I've learned from my many, many, many years of business and TCG to give you my best approximation of what's going on here. But it really does seem like this is the beginning of the jump. And it's Umbreon, for goodness sake. Obviously, Umbreon was going to be a ridiculously popular card. Because it's Umbreon. Now, annoyingly, Umbreon, before I realised the hype, Umbreon was always my favourite evolution. I think Umbreon's is awesome. Flareon's number 2, if anybody's wondering, best Gen 1 evolution. Turns out Umbreon is just kind of like the trendy pick that everybody loves, and that makes me a bit sad. I want Umbreon to be my thing, but it's okay. But the point is, Umbreon is always going to end up inflated a little bit more than the other evolutions. It's frankly a little bit weird that this took as long, but it is. You know the one that's spiking that is just, there is a reason for it, right? But it's weird and it's a bit strange. Lance. Lance is proper spiking. Now, this is another one where you can't really believe the graph. Because if you look at the graph, in the past month, and by month I literally mean week, it's gone from a $2 card to a $5.50 card, a rise of 150%. No, it hasn't. It's gone to a $15 card. Look at the recent sales. They're all around $15. So it's not 150% up, it's 650% up. It's gone up by 6.5 times. It is 7.5 times what it was a minute ago. It is 650% up. And this is Lance from Silver Tempest. Lets you search for free dragon Pokemon, reveal them, put them into your hand. What is going on with Lance? Why is it taking a sudden jump? The answer is Dragapult. Now, we knew Dragapult was coming. We've known Dragapult's coming for weeks. Nobody really took Dragapult seriously, and I can prove that nobody took Dragapult seriously, or at least I suppose I should say seriously enough, because this price spike happened when results came out. This price spike coincided exactly with the first weekend of tournaments with Mask of Change legal over in Japan. This price spike didn't happen when the card was revealed. The price spike happened when tournament results started coming in. Which is to say, nobody really thought Dragapult was going to be quite as good and quite as dominant as it is. And if people did think it was going to be as good and as dominant as that, why did we not see the spike in Lance? Well, there is an argument there, and the argument essentially is, don't tell anyone here, Lance isn't that good. Not to be rude, but yeah, Lance isn't that good, ladies and gentlemen. Lance is not that good. You see, we've got a bunch of Dragapult lists. Go on limitlesstcg.com. They got a bunch of Dragapult lists running around. And generally speaking, they might play one Lance. They don't all play one Lance, but they generally don't play more than one. Now, I'm sure if you dig through, you can probably find a couple of lists out and about that are playing multiple Lance. But when I look, and I've had a look at a bunch of these over on limitlesstcg.com, and I'm generally seeing that one Lance tends to be the maximum, but there are a lot of winning lists out there that are not playing Lance at all. Some of them play one, many of them play none. It is a tech at best. So, on the one hand, yeah, it's potentially good. And the thing to remember is that you've got your Dracloak here that lets you once during your turn look at the top two cards of your deck, put one in your hand and the other one on the bottom of your deck. So essentially you get all your Dreepy turn 1, then turn 2 you play Lance, get all your Dracloak out, and then your draw engines off and rolling. It makes sense, but we've literally got data that tells us it is an occasional tech at best. It has jumped up in price because people saw the results over in Japan and are speculating. They are speculating that Lance is going to become a staple card in Dragapult, and the price is going to jump up dramatically, and when the price jumps up dramatically, they are going to have all the Dragapult. Will it work? Maybe. But the thing to remember is, we've got results, we've got data. Lance is not a big card in Dragapult. It's a one-of in some decks. That is the best I can tell you. Having said that, if you picked it up at $2 a card, I don't know, maybe it's worth it at $2 a card. But anyone trying to pick it up now for $15, expecting it to keep jumping in price in the future, yeah. I expect to be making a video in a couple of months' time about how Lance has just crashed back in price. Now, the big jumpers this past, well, at least that I've been looking at, are Umbreon and Lance, but there are a couple of others. Giratina V has gone up 50% in the past 3 months. It is now a solidly $400 card. Last 3 sales are $400, $400, and $500. I wish I could give you some fancy explanation for this like I can give you for the other two. Umbreon's going up because Brilliant Stars is getting harder to find, and it's Umbreon. Lance is going up because of Dragapult. Giratina's just going up. And don't get me wrong, like I showed you the other day, Lost Origin is starting to sell out. It is becoming absolutely harder to find. But the real thing here is Giratina's just a big card. Giratina isn't quite Umbreon, but it's maybe up there as the number 2 card right now in the Sword and Shield era. So it has gone up 50% in 3 months, which is frankly a pretty big jump. But honestly, look at the graph. Like, here's Lance's graph again, big shoot up. Here's Umbreon's graph again, big shoot up. Here's Giratina's graph. It's just slowly creeping up. This is what the really, truly great cards tend to do. Like Giratina, they tend to creep up. It's not a massive spike after a few weeks, few months, etc. It is just slowly and surely just creeping up and getting bigger and getting bigger. This is what the huge cards tend to do. It's not big jumps. It's just going up quite nicely. And we can see a very similar thing here going on with Lugia. Lugia is not on the same level as Giratina and Moonbreon, and I'm not pretending it is. But it is still a big card. And yeah, we did see a decent-sized jump in April there. But it's still generally just trending upwards. Again, we're seeing a nearly 60% rise in the space of 3 months. And honestly, that's underselling it. Market price there is 185, but the last 3 sales are 190, 200, 200. And essentially here, the answer is very simple. It is a great card. Lugia is a very popular Pokemon, and this is a card that is just going to keep creeping up and up and up. Silver Temper still seems a bit more available than Lost Origin, for instance, so I do think that this card is going to hang on to semi-reasonable prices for a little while longer. But does anyone honestly think that in the long run, over the next 5 years, for instance, the Giratina is going to stay massively ahead of Lugia? It might. But I see Giratina and Lugia as very, very comparable cards. Beautiful artworks by popular established artists. We've got Kanda for Giratina and we've got Kawaii for Lugia. And they're phenomenal cards with very low pull rates that people are very, very much liking. Yeah, Giratina's higher now, and honestly, Giratina has been higher since release. But I do think that in the long run, these cards are going to get a lot closer together. Either way, I do expect to see them all going up quite nicely. And the last one I think is worth talking about today, although there are a few others I'm tracking, they've just not gone up quite so much. Aerodactyl has gone up by about 40% in the past 3 months, except it's not really, it's gone up by more than that. The 40% figure is assuming that the market price of $113 is correct. Look at the last couple of solds, $130, $150. No. It's not really a $113 card. It's more $130, $140. And here's the thing. This is another card from Lost Origin, which, as I showed you the other day, is a set which is very much on the way out. It is getting harder and harder to pick up. It is becoming more awkward to actually buy. And this is one that's always irked me a little, because it's not that big in Japan. And we've generally seen this. This is just a thing at this stage. Cards that are big in Japan will be big over here. Most of the time, cards that aren't big in Japan won't be big over here. But towards the tail end of the Sword and Shield era, and it happened in Astral Radiance with Machamp as well, there's just these random alternate arts that the community as a whole just went, let's big it up. And just led to a massive increase in price. That doesn't really make any sense, because if there was a really good reason for the price to be jumping up, then the card as a whole would be jumping up, not just over here in the US, Europe, etc. So this one, the Aerodactyl has always seemed a little bit weird to me. I'm not buying it personally, but the fact of the matter is, it has happened. Right, there we go. That's what you need to know. And now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about all of these cards. Have you picked them up? Did you pull them? Do you think they're getting out of control? Let me know in the comment section. Get us. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talked about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. Oh, and get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Chelsea Rose, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person, so shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.